Hi. I know what you're waiting for. Yeah, this was supposed to be the last video on my jean cosplay. No, have not finished. Yeah, sorry. Hi, I'm Alice. Welcome to Cosplayland. Today I'm just going to be doing a short video to make a short cosplay after spending all my summer trying to finish my Sea Breeze Dandelion Jean cosplay. Yeah, no, I haven't finished that one yet. But it's almost done! I just thought that since it's already fall, I don't know how that happened. Why is it fall yet? Like, it was summer last week, I promise. It doesn't make any sense. The thing is that I was theoretically just going to spend like a couple of weeks finishing my Sea Breeze Dandelion cosplay, but you know, one thing happened and then the next one didn't work and it was more difficult than I expected. And yeah, I spent all summer doing one cosplay which I have not finished, and then I had my 3D printers not cooperating, which was quite frustrating. I've literally spent the last week and a half just trying to print two objects on my 3D printer and it just does not work. So, well, I figured that out, and before I just like decide to just throw this cosplay out of the window with all the 3D printers behind it, what I decided to do was just a short, yeah, I guess it's quite short, a short cosplay just for Halloween, because every single year I think I have all the time in the world to do cosplays for Halloween, and then it comes October and November and December and the next year, and I am always late for it. So this time I decided to start early, and I am just doing a simple project that I couldn't do last year. I had planned to do it like quite a while ago, and I had most of the fabrics, I changed some of them, and yeah, I will be making Ochako, which is gonna be the version that she wears at the end of the, I don't know, first, second, third opening, one of the openings. And I thought it was like quite suitable because she wears this hood and she wears this dress which is a bit like cottagecore style, and that's very fashionable. So I thought, yeah, I'm just gonna do a cottagecore witch, which is how I call this project cosplay. For Ochako, just wearing a hood and a simple dress. Hopefully it will be made in just a couple of days and I will be able to share the tutorial with you, and even I'll be able to put the pattern up in the shop in time for Halloween. Fingers crossed! Oi! I was gonna start sewing today. Can I start sewing? No? That's your bet now? Okay. Good cat. As always, I started by gathering my fabrics and my materials. I used some light pink for the dress and this nice fabric for the hood, and also all the trims that Melina really liked. The only disadvantage with linen is that it creases very easily, but I think it gives it like that cottagecore old style witch look, so I actually really like to use this fabric and it was very easy to sew. As always, I folded my fabric in half and placed my pattern on top. I use weights to keep it in place, but feel free to use some pins if it's easier for you. Also remember that my patterns don't come with seam allowances. This is because I think it's much easier to modify a pattern without them, and it's actually very easy to add as much seam allowance as you need when you are cutting the fabric. So about 1.5 centimeters or 1 inch should be enough to get this right. Of course, my cats really enjoyed the process as usual. After playing with my cat, I started cutting the fabric using my rotary cutter. I find it more precise than the scissors, but it does take a little bit of practice to get used to it, so feel free to use the scissors if that's what you've got. And of course, because I didn't measure my fabric, I ended up with a piece which was too small for my skirt, and I had to play around with the pattern until I managed to put it in a position in which it fit, which I do not recommend, so read your instructions before you buy your fabric, please. Once I had all my pieces cut, I started by assembling the bodice. In order to do so, I'm gonna be sewing the sides and the shoulders on the top part. You just need a normal straight stitch on your machine, nothing fancy. And I did the same for the sides of my skirt. Don't forget to iron your fabric as you go, as this will help with the final finish on your garment, and it will also help on the next steps when you have to sew those seams. I decorated the center of the dress with this gross grain ribbon because I couldn't find any bias tape the right color, but it wasn't the best idea. You will see it just makes like these little waves on it, so I would really recommend you to use some kind of bias tape to use this instead of the ribbon. Then I just had to sew the ribbon in place. I also decorated the sides with this pink lace that I found very cheap on the store, just to make it look nicer. Time to do the sleeves. First of all, you need to prepare them by sewing 2 rows of stitches with a very long stitch setting, so you can just pull those threads later and make them a little bit narrower so they fit on your sleeve. Fold your sleeves in half, making sure they are in the right position, and now we are just going to be making a tube out of these sleeves. And here's a tip for your sleeves. I made this sleeve roll just to insert in the middle of the sleeve, so when you are ironing it, you don't need to worry about creasing the rest of the fabric. And it's very easy to make. Just let me know in the comments if you would like me to make a pattern for these and just make a tutorial on how to make them. I also decided to hem my sleeves now because I found it much easier before I inserted an elastic band later on to keep those sleeves attached to your body. Now, this is perhaps the trickiest part of the dress because I'm going to be adding an elastic band to the cuffs. So what you want to do is just do a few stitches first to make sure that elastic band is not moving, and then I'm going to pull from my elastic band so it is quite tight, and when the machine starts sewing, it's going to automatically gather that elastic band and fabric together and make a very nice ruffle. Keep in mind that I'm using a zigzag stitch because that will keep my elastic still elastic. If you were to use a straight stitch, what's going to happen is it's just going to break. So just use the zigzag stitch and go slowly, and just make sure that your elastic band is stretched at all times while you sew. Once your main parts are assembled, you just need to put the skirt and the bodice together. So in order to do so, you have to first match those seams, and I would just recommend you to match first the seams and then the center of the skirt and the center of the bodice, and just make sure everything is as even as possible before you sew it. I am going to insert an invisible zipper on this project, and the first thing you need to do is just iron those teeth inwards so it's much easier to sew them later on with your machine. Then I use my invisible zip foot in order to attach it to each side of the back. Then I use a normal zipper foot in order to close the rest of the seam. This is only to avoid the bulk of the zipper at the beginning of the stitch. To hem the skirt, I decided to use bias tape because I had to cut it a bit shorter than in the pattern, and also this is one of the easiest ways of hemming a circle skirt and make it look as clean as possible. So what you want to do is just use your bias tape as you would usually do it, just attach it to the very end, and I'm going to fold it inward so it's not going to be seen anymore at the front, but it's just going to create this very nice shape at the bottom of the skirt and give it a little bit of extra volume. Notice that I'm folding the edge a few millimeters inwards so the pink parts from my bias tape won't show at the front. Then you just have to top stitch the edge of your bias tape and your hem will be done. I'm going to do the belt loops next. So in order to do so, first I find the center of these rectangles that I cut, and I'm going to fold the edges inwards so they are hidden. So once I have that done, I will iron it again and I will fold it in half again so you won't be able to see the edges anymore. Once I have those ironed, they are ready to be closed completely by just top stitching the edge. Again, you just need to use a long stitch for these because it's not gonna have any kind of movement. I'm just going to place my loops in position belt, so you just wanna do a few stitches on top of one of your belts, looking away from where you need it. This is just to keep it in place. Then you want to measure your belt loops to make sure that your belt will go through them. This is very important because you don't want to mess up here. And as you see, mine was a little bit long, so I just cut it, trimmed that edge and just placed it in position before I top stitched both edges, so they will stay in place like that and they won't move. Finally, I attached the buttons to the dress and finished some bits and pieces here and there, like the end of the zipper, to make sure that they wouldn't move while I was wearing the cosplay. As I had a little bit of leftover trim, I decided to embellish the color with it to just make it look a little bit nicer when I was not wearing the hood. And by the way, I was doing this on the floor because my cat really likes my chair, and you know what, I just decided not to bother anymore with them. They can just do whatever they want in my room. You want belly rubs? Yep. Yes, you do. Cosplay with cats. And this video actually went a little bit longer than I expected, so you will have to wait to part 2, in which I show you how I made the hood, the belt and some of the details of the cosplay. Don't forget to hit that like button if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see the next part of this adventure. I will leave a link in the description with the patterns for this cosplay. See you next time!